Today, New York State Attorney General Letitia James announced a massive lawsuit against former President Donald Trump and 3 of his adult children, Eric, Ivanka, and Donald Trump Jr. According to the lawsuit, Trump and his children allegedly lied about or manipulated the values of real estate to defraud banks and insurers and to get tax benefits. The AG is suing Trump for $250 million and trying to prevent him and his children from running a company in New York ever again. She wants to ban the Trump Organization from buying real estate in New York for 5 years as well. Okay, now on this show, I've been critical of both Donald Trump and Letitia James, the New York Attorney General. So what we're not going to do here is just jump for joy like those on the left are doing based on the lawsuit, like they do every time there's a lawsuit or investigation announced into the former president. And we're also not going to start stomping our feet and shouting about how this has to be a politically motivated witch hunt, like some in the right-leaning media do. What we are going to do is dig into the facts of what all of this is about, how it happened. So here's what we know. The suit alleges that between 2011 and 2021, Trump, his children, and senior executives at the Trump Organization lied on financial statements.
The complaint demonstrates that Donald Trump falsely inflated his net worth by billions of dollars to unjustly enrich himself and to cheat the system, thereby cheating all of us. He did this with the help of the other defendants, his children. Mr. Trump and the Trump Organization repeatedly and persistently manipulated the value of assets to induce banks to lend money to the Trump Organization on more favorable terms.
Among the properties cited by the lawsuit, Mar-a-Lago, which James says was valued as high as $739 million when it should have been $75 million. The Trump building at 40 Wall Street in Manhattan, valued at $527 million. James says it was only worth $220 million. Trump's Trump Tower apartment, valued at $327, when, quote, no apartment in New York City has ever sold for that amount. And rent-stabilized apartments at Trump Park Avenue, valued at $50 million, when they were worth, she says, only $750,000. James says Trump and those close to him did it more than 200 times. Now, it's also worth noting that James is up for re-election in the fall and has long built her political reputation on going after Donald Trump, even before she got elected.
We need to focus on Donald Trump and his abuses. We've got to stand up and use the power of the law and tell this president and every other individual that no one is above the law.
And in fact, there was another piece of sound that was shared on social media where she actually says she's going to sue Donald Trump before she was even the Attorney General. The allegations in the lawsuit also could be hard to prove. For example, didn't the financial institutions or insurers have a responsibility to verify the numbers when handing out loans? Don't they do that as a matter of course? And importantly, there's no real science to determine the value of real estate. It's subjective. Trump also included a disclaimer in his financial statement saying that his accountants had not audited the values he claimed that they were worth. And since Trump is widely known not to use email, it's unlikely James can point to anything in writing that proves he gave his employees instructions to lie. But James's lawsuit anticipated these arguments. Quote, the inflated asset valuations in the statements cannot be brushed aside or excused as merely the result of exaggeration or good faith estimation about which reasonable real estate professionals may differ. Rather, they are the result of the defendants utilizing objectively false assumptions and blatantly improper methodologies with the intent and purpose of falsely and fraudulently inflating Mr. Trump's net worth. Meanwhile, Trump's attorney issued a statement saying, among other things, that today's filing is neither focused on the facts nor the law. Rather, it's solely focused on advancing the Attorney General's political agenda. It is abundantly clear that the Attorney General's office has exceeded its statutory authority by prying into transactions where absolutely no wrongdoing has taken place. Joining me now is Jennifer Beidel, former Assistant U.S. Attorney in the Southern District of New York, where she was a member of the Complex Frauds and Cybercrime Unit. Thanks very much for coming on the program. Appreciate it. All right, so let me ask you just big picture. How difficult of a case is something like this to prove in court based on all the potential challenges that I mentioned?
So the Attorney General has brought a civil case here, not a criminal case. I think that's for a reason. The pleading standard in a civil case is much lower. We're talking about a burden of proof by the preponderance of the evidence. not a burden of proof beyond a reasonable doubt. There is, of course, a referral mentioned here to the U.S. Attorney's Office in the Southern District of New York, which if they pursued this case, then they would presumably apply that higher burden of proof of beyond a reasonable doubt and have to meet that additional proof standard.
See, look, I don't think there's going to be any criminal case here. I mean, the Manhattan DA has been investigating this. The Manhattan DA has been investigating it with the Attorney General, Letitia James. They were investigating it together. The Manhattan DA had the opportunity to bring a case earlier this year when two of his top deputies resigned because they thought he should bring the case based on everything that has been presented in court. So I think it's actually kind of a fake out that the Manhattan DA is claiming, oh, I'm still investigating this. We'll see. We're still working on this. You're right. That's different than the federal authorities. But I don't think that there's going to be any criminal don't believe there's going to be any criminal prosecution that now that the DA has basically allowed these two to resign and not move forward. Do you agree?
I agree with that at the state level. I think if the state level prosecutors thought that they had a criminal case to bring, they would have brought it today or around the same time as this complaint. Whether the feds can make some criminal federal case out of this by perhaps comparing what's on Donald Trump's IRS statements with these inflated valuations, that remains to be seen. But certainly I think the state is opting out of the criminal arena via this complaint.
I want to play a piece of sound. This is from Bill Barr on Fox News today. He has been very critical, as people know, of Donald Trump. He's gone after Donald Trump lately, in particular in connection with the documents at Mar-a-Lago, but not this time.
It's hard for me not to conclude it's a political hit job. And this is a woman who campaigned for office saying that, promising she was going to go after Trump, which I think is a tremendous abuse of office to go headhunting and targeting individuals. So I think she was targeting Trump. And so this to me looks like gross overreach, which I think is going to end up backfiring on them because I think it will make people sympathetic for Trump, that this is another example of people piling on because of Trump derangement syndrome, this strong desire to punish him.
I agree with almost everything that he said there, meaning I agree that it was a huge mistake for the Attorney General candidate to then talk about how she was going to try and sue Donald Trump. I think that has really damaged enormously her credibility here. And I do think that politically, this is also going to help Donald Trump. I think that the only area where I may disagree is that when you read the actual document, it does seem that there was some shenanigans here. Whether that rises to the level of a winning lawsuit, we shall see. But don't you agree that a candidate for Attorney General shouldn't be out there campaigning on the fact that she's going to sue Donald Trump?
Certainly, she revealed her agenda before she became the Attorney General, and I agree that is unwise, targeting a particular individual or articulating that you intend to bring a particular suit, obviously at a time before you have the evidence to support that. This is just an allegation at this phase. It will be interesting to see whether the evidence supports the 222 pages of facts she alleges. If it does, as you say, there does seem to be some shenanigans contained within this complaint, which certainly, if proven, I think could be a problem for the Trump organization. So it's really a weighing of the motivation as expressed by her against maybe she does have the ability to prove all of this.
Right. And so this is why I think it's so important to do what we're doing here, which is what almost no one else is doing in the media, which is to say, yes, there are real reasons to question her motives. But yes, we're also going to read through the lawsuit and evaluate the facts and the law, and we're going to see what happens. Jennifer Beidel, thank you very much for coming on the show. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you for watching. Go to NewsNationNow.com to find NewsNation on your cable provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.